Well, Donald Trump took a lot of abuse on the campaign trail this last year for suggesting stricter screenings for immigrants and refugees coming to America from the Middle East. The smug left denounced him as a bigot, but did he have a point? A new report from an aid worker on the scene in Germany suggests migrants at one refugee camp there are preaching, quote, pure hatred towards Christians and are hoping to bring Islamic rule to that country. An anomaly? Here now is terror expert Dr. Sebastian Gorka. Dr. Gorka, thanks a lot for joining us. Are we drawing too many conclusions from this story, or is this a representative story, do you think?
Well, first, can I congratulate you on your show, on the ratings, and on your haircut? All excellent.
All except the last. Thank
right. Look, this is the missing piece of the puzzle that we've been worrying about for the last few years with this inordinate refugee stream going into Europe. This is the idea of what some people have called stealth jihad. Right now, it's only one person, but it's a person who has some credibility. Why? Because she's a former refugee herself. She's somebody who arrived in 1991 and now decided to give something back by helping her fellow refugees. And if you listen to what she's saying, it's very, very disturbing, Tucker.
So I want to take the impulse behind the Trump policy prescription seriously, whether or not you agree with the details. There is a problem with assimilation of Islamic refugees in Europe and Scandinavia, a real problem, and I think everyone acknowledges that. Are you familiar, having spent a lot of your life in Europe, of any country that has successfully assimilated large numbers of Muslim refugees, and if so, how'd they do it?
Absolutely, but I'm talking about the period when my parents arrived in Europe, so in London, in the UK. My parents were refugees, Tucker. They weren't Muslims, but they were taken in after the revolution of 1956. Right. In that period, the 50s, the 60s, and 70s, there was assimilation. It doesn't matter whether you came from Pakistan, Hungary, Bangladesh. You wanted to be a Brit. You wanted to be a German. The trouble is what we're seeing now, Tucker, is the sour fruit of 20 years of immigration policy where they said everybody's welcome and you don't have to assimilate. You can have Bradford become a hyper-Muslim, intolerant area. You can have Marseille become a den of extremism. It's a consequence of political decisions, Tucker, that we have these areas today in Europe that are where the Brussels bombers hang out and recruit their buddies.
It seems so masochistic, almost suicidal, but that does seem the point. If you bring people from a culture where hating Christians and Jews is taught in the schools, you do have some obligation to try and deprogram them when they get to your country, don't you? Why don't we do that in the West?
Because there has been this mantra for the last 25 years that all cultures are equal. And as a result, you're not allowed to say, hey, you want to be a Brit, you want to be a German, this is what it means. That became anathema, and that's why Europe is where it is today. And that's why Trump resonated so much, because the average American knows this is crazy. It goes against common sense to say all cultures are equal. I'm sorry, female genital mutilation is un-American. We don't accept it, and I think the average American understands that too.
Well, it's certainly a crime against women, and you'd think the feminist groups would mention it once in a while. But that would require, in order to ask people to buy into your values, you'd have to believe in your own values first, wouldn't you?
Oh, didn't you just nail it, Tucker? You cannot have a healthy nation unless you embrace the values of the nation. For America, it's the founding principles of our founding fathers. In the UK, it's the Magna Carta. In Germany, it's Teutonic Knights, whatever. But if you can't embrace your history, then you will lack the antibodies to deal with people who want to subvert your culture.
I think that's really smart and obvious, but thank you for saying it. No one else does. Dr. Gorka, thanks a lot for joining us tonight. Appreciate it.
It's a pleasure.